I did the whole video and forgot to put the box score in, so I'll just add this in at the front. So Pickens was supposed to have a monster game. I'm not saying 74 yards is bad. That's certainly not what they hyped it up to be, especially when his first touchdown came on one of the first drives of the game after he allowed his pick six. And it is interesting that Jamar Chase had 6 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown, right? He way outplayed Pickens in this one. We got our finals in. Just a reminder, we don't bet weekly games. We just make our picks. We like to bet championships, that sort of stuff. So if you're asking how much money Coach lost on this one, he's going to say none. And was this the absolute worst case scenario of what could have happened? No. The Chargers game finished up way before the Bengals Steelers game did, and the Chargers beat the Falcons. So once that happened, it was kind of hard to root for the Bengals because we kind of want every team fighting for that last wild card spot to get pick up every loss they can get. And we already had the Steelers getting in. There's no way they're missing the playoffs, right? It's not like we thought they were just going to lose every single game the rest of the way. That's just insane, right? So tough to stand the Bengals anymore. Like I said, we were always taking the Browns anyways. We thought the Bengals might get that last wild card spot. Tough to see it for them now. They do have the Broncos left, but it just doesn't, like, the only thing I could see that may hint that the Chargers are still somehow going to miss. They only scored 17 points. That's crazy. Like, I'm thinking, and Herbert didn't play particularly well. I'm thinking maybe we already got our Herbert. I mean, we know he's already at like 20%, so it's not even like really a maybe. But I'm thinking like that injury's showing, and that might have been their very last win. Obviously, that's the only way I think they could possibly miss. Because even if they only get 8 wins, and there's like a script for the Bengals to get in, the Bengals can't get past 8 wins, and they lost to the Chargers head to head. So, like I said, it's tough to go against the Chargers at this point unless somehow they completely lose out. You know what I mean? But like I said, I don't see that. So we're gonna I'm giving the Chargers that spot. So why did we like the Bengals potentially getting in there? Pretty much exclusively the Hard Knocks angle, and as Trevor pointed out, it could have been the fourth time and 4 teams getting in. But Coach has certainly caught on to a pattern that they like to do things in threes, and a lot of times that fourth one's a dummy one. I'm still not saying impossible, but I just don't see it. I'm not taking the 4 in script anymore. I just want the Brownies getting in there. And as far as what were the initial thoughts towards the Bengals? Well, we initially had the Bengals missing because not when we didn't know anything about Hard Knocks, because the Browns are like the anti-Bengals, or the Bengals are like the anti-Browns, right? Or like also like one and the same. Like the Browns founder went on to create the Bengals. The Bengals Stadium is still named like Paul Brown Stadium. They're both in Ohio, right? Like Bengals started in 1968. There's a lot of weird connections there. They both suck, right? They've never won a Super Bowl, so both orange, right? So um, initially wanted to fade the Bengals, but once again, it's tough to do it to like a quarterback as good as Burrow. But there's clearly something really bad going on. He seemed pissed off the whole game. As far as like positives, like, oh yeah, all sorts of positives. So one, if the Browns do sweep the Steelers like we predicted, makes it way more magical. Okay, because it's not some 3 game losing streak, which actually seemed like a harder ass than just getting swept by the Browns. Like, it's divisional games, you could see losing 2 out of 3, right? It's not the 2 you'd want to lose, but it's possible, especially with the Browns team that's fighting as hard as they are. The Steelers, everybody's gonna focus on the fact they scored 44 points and not they let up 38 points. I would have not have expected that defense to let up 38 points to the Bengals, right? Even though the Bengals are supposed to be some great offense, all that sort of stuff. I just was not expecting that type of score this week. Um, the Chargers, I believe, I guess that does prove the Chargers have a better defense than the Steelers in a way because they held them to 11 less, right? But if, I'm not saying the Browns' offense is anywhere near as good as the Bengals at this point because they got Jameis Winston in there. We want Bailey Zappi, obviously. But, if we're looking at the Browns' schedule, the reason it's made sense, like the timing that has made sense all along since we knew Zappi was on the team, they love to do that revenge game. So, all we've said is he's got to come in by the Chiefs game, right? And that's a couple weeks away. So we've got to survive Broncos and Steelers one more time. They're telling us there's some way the Browns can lose one game the rest of the way and get in. I have not factored that script. Like I said, the 8-9 record, like getting in technically, like making the numbers work and all that sort of stuff. 8-9, 9-8, all the same as far as like their little coincidences. But in like I always said that this conference certainly could be weak enough that they somehow allow an 8-win team in there. It just doesn't feel like it's shaping up that way. Obviously, they're not going to make it obvious, but it's just a really hard bluff, right? But it's not like the Chargers came out and scored 40 points, and it's not like the Steelers came out and pitched a shutout. So I'm not scared about the Browns versus the Steelers. Obviously, the only game we've really cared about this week hasn't happened yet. So they're still going to make us sweat, figure out what's going down tomorrow here. But if the Browns win, they're tied up with the Bengals for that, and they're not going to, people are probably going to now start saying, because they've been like putting the Bengals on the in the hunt, they're probably going to take them off there, right? So it's like they can't just disrespect the one team and make it obvious. They'll always put like two, their cover for not putting the Browns on any of the in the hunt graphics will be like, oh well, the Bengals were in the same position and they didn't make it, or all the Dolphins, whatever, right? So as far as, like I said, at least two wild card teams didn't lose today. We didn't explore that script because we didn't expect the Chargers game to end so much earlier. I figured it would just happen at the same time. I actually started, cutting a reaction saying like, oh, at least the Steelers are blowing out the Bengals, and then the Bengals scored a touchdown, cut it 10. So I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like this might be way weird. Like the only thing that I'm still scratching my head about is like, how the hell did Vegas make the Steelers the underdog to a team that's been 4-20? Like out of the last 24 games, the Bengals have played the Steelers in Cincinnati. They've only won 4 of them, 4 out of 24, right? Like, how were they the favorite, and how did they just pay Steelers fans like that? Are they expecting them to put it right back down on a Super Bowl or something? Like, I just don't quite see the logic, unless maybe, it's not like I perfectly understand all the psychology of betting, right? Like maybe it is just like people see the favorite and that's just always going to get more action because it's the favorite and people like a winner, right? They're telling them this is more likely to happen. They think it's a sure thing, so they bet the Bengals and get burned, right? But to me, I always thought it was the opposite. Like, why would they be bet? Now, at the same time, though, I think what I didn't factor in was that it was such a low point spread. Like, it's not like they had the Steelers trailing by like 7 or something. Like people would have taken that action, right? Like, oh, they can lose by 6 points, and I still get paid. Like that would have been super fishy. Like the fact it was only a field goal, I guess that ultimately makes it a pick'em game. And I've always heard a weird thing that it's like you always want to bet the home underdog. I don't stand that, but I know that's a common betting thing, and I just don't have enough experience there to say whether that holds true. But it does seem like I have noticed a lot of home dogs that win. You know what I mean? And it matches some of my curse logic. Like even though the Titans are terrible, like it still seems to hold logic that they'd be the type of team that could upset somebody the very last week of the season. Like we're also expecting the Raiders to. We actually don't need the Titans to do that anymore because they won one last week. We with the Chargers, the most important thing to remember is yes, we whiffed on this week, but we nailed it last week. The Ravens did us a solid, right? We didn't want the Ravens to lose to the Chargers and then somehow have to expect the Falcons to pull it out. We know the Ravens are better than the Falcons, right? We were just hoping we could get lucky 2 weeks in a row. So at least we went 50-50 there and we went 50-50 on the Steelers picks, right? But at least we got the good one right. We got the Browns winning. We like the Browns. We don't give a shit about the Bengals other than could have possibly helped our script. And the Chargers, they didn't clinch it. Like we could be talking about like, oh shit, I just missed 2 weeks in a row and the Chargers are already in the playoffs. There's still scenarios where they miss completely. So until they win again, we don't have to absolutely 100% factor them in. It's just like, man, we got to get even closer to talking about it, right? But at least we're not all the way there like we would have been if the Ravens would have blown it. We have no problem with the Ravens winning a bunch of games. We still think the Ravens and Steelers are both getting in there. We always have. We just think the Browns are getting in there too, but we don't know if it's the Chargers or the Bengals. We still have absolutely no faith that the Broncos are doing anything. Of course, what we may feel differently after tomorrow night, right? But as of now, certainly not sky is falling, panic mode or anything like that. It's just still like, man, Like, it's nice that it's the big primetime game, but we got to wait all the way till tomorrow night to see the fucking Brownies do whatever they're going to do. So, obviously, that's like our Super Bowl in a way. You know what I mean? Like, and every week is, like I said, we've been in the playoffs since last week, and we got the Steelers one, right? So just got to keep winning out. Hopefully it all works out. Keep the faith. Now, oh my gosh, cannot believe I didn't mention this. The Steelers defense, the reason the Bengals scored 38 points had nothing to do with the Bengals. I promise that. I was amazed when I kept seeing the score like going up as high as it was. It was like, the Bengals aren't doing anything. But the Steelers, I am not even exaggerating. That defense committed more penalties and at the worst times ever than I've ever seen any team commit, bar none. And ain't no, oh, the refs were against them. It was insane. There was truly a play where the Steelers defense had 4 different penalties called on them at once. I'm not even exaggerating. It was like, and then there was another one later on that in a crucial moment, right? The one that like actually let the Bengals have a chance still, and that's what we actually like is that the Steelers are still the type of team to let teams hang around. Yeah, they took care of business, but the Bengals didn't have any business staying in this one, right? It's just that the Steelers kept committing penalties. So another big one at the end of the game, T.J. Watt jumps off sides, gives them a free play, and then there's like pass interference. There's a bunch of like combinations of pass interference at the one with personal fouls and offsides, and like I can't remember what like the fourth one was on the one, but I mean it was literally insane. I couldn't even believe it. Oh, we got a huge sign too. So coach predicted one of the Browns or Lions kickers will make a 68-yard field goal this year. The Patriots attempted and missed a 68-yarder today. So I'm gonna end it on that. Appreciate y'all.